Last night in Boston, under the lights of Gillette Stadium, there was a moment when all of France held its breath. In the 60th minute of the World Cup quarter-final between France and Morocco, the ball reached his feet at the edge of the box. Without hesitation, his right foot struck a gorgeous curling effort past the reach of goalkeeper Bounou, burying it straight into the corner. 1-0. That was Kylian Mbappe's 8th goal of this tournament. That single goal brought him level with Lionel Messi in the race for this year's Golden Boot. Two men, two generations, standing together at the top. Moments later, Dembélé doubled the lead, and France won 2-0, stepping proudly into the semi-finals. That goal, that curling strike, was just the starting point, because behind the fastest man on the planet is a long, extraordinary story. The story of a boy who once lay in a cramped bedroom, walls covered in posters of his idol, cradling a dream in his heart. A dream where, ironically, the fastest man in the world could not simply sprint to the finish line. He had to run while waiting for 12 long years. This is the story of Kylian Mbappé. Let us turn back the clock to an evening in 2012 in a small room in Bondy, just outside Paris. Look at the walls in that room, every single inch covered with pictures of Cristiano Ronaldo. In the middle of the room, a 13-year-old boy lies on his bed, holding a football tightly in his hands, his mind filled with a burning dream. A boy growing up in the shadow of his idol, destined one day to achieve everything he ever dreamed of, except for the one thing he desired most. Because some dreams cannot be rushed, Kylian Mbappé was born in Paris on December 20th, 1998. Just 5 months earlier, France had won the World Cup for the first time in history, thanks to 2 goals from Zinedine Zidane in the final. As the whole country remained intoxicated by the joy of victory, Kylian uttered his first cry. It was as if fate had already arranged it. He was born in the middle of a golden era for French football. His family lived in Bondy, a small town right next to Paris. His father, Wilfried, is of Cameroonian descent. His mother, Faiza, was born in France to an Algerian family, and she was no stranger to high-level sports. She was a former professional handball player who competed for many years in France's top division. You could say athletic blood ran through Kylian long before he ever kicked a ball. Bondy was not a wealthy town. Many families moved there from all over, carrying hopes for a better life. But later, Kylian described his hometown in a very different way. He said, "In Bondy, we didn't have much money, but we had dreams, because dreams don't cost a single penny. Dreams are free." That single quote tells you everything about what nourished this young man. Kylian's father was a football coach at a local club called AS Bondy, so Kylian touched a football when he was very young. The pitch felt like a second home. At age 6, he joined the youth team. Then, something unusual happened. The coaches quickly realized Kylian was far too good for kids his age. So, they moved him up to play with the 10-year-olds, and he was still the best player on the pitch. His first mentor was a man named Antonio Riccardi. Riccardi had coached hundreds of kids in his lifetime, but when speaking about Kylian, he uttered words people would remember forever. "Kylian is the best kid I've ever coached, and probably the best I will ever coach in my entire life." Riccardi recalled a local league match. Bondy was down 1-0 at halftime. The locker room was dead silent, the young players looking down in sadness. Then, the little boy stood up. "Don't worry," he said. "I will get the ball, and I will score." The team returned to the pitch. Kylian got the ball and charged forward. He beat the first defender, then the second, then the third, leaving only the goalkeeper ahead. Calmly, he slotted the ball into the net. He did exactly what he promised. Mind you, he was only 10 years old. By age 11, scouts from Europe's biggest clubs began arriving in Bondy. Real Madrid was watching, Chelsea was watching, Bayern Munich was watching. No one had seen a young French talent cause such a sensation since the days of Zinedine Zidane. Imagine what it felt like for that young boy, a small kid in a small town, suddenly having the most powerful clubs in the world knocking on his door. But that was not even the most magical part. Shortly after, the greatest legend in French football history would personally appear at his doorstep. In late 2012, just days before Kylian's 14th birthday, Real Madrid invited him to visit their training facility. His parents agreed. It was a special trip, a training session at the biggest club on the planet. The family flew to Madrid. When they arrived at the training center, someone was waiting in the parking lot. A tall man standing quietly by his car, hands in his pockets, offering a warm smile before even saying a word. It was Zinedine Zidane. The greatest legend in French football history had personally come to meet a 13-year-old boy from Bondy. Pause for a second and feel that moment. The man worshipped by all of France, the man who scored 2 goals in the World Cup final the year Kylian was born, was now standing there, waiting for him. Zidane pointed to the passenger seat, offering to drive Kylian to the training pitch himself. The boy climbed into the car, so nervous he could barely speak. Finally, he looked at Zidane and asked an innocent question. "Do I need to take off my shoes?" Zidane laughed. "Of course not. Come on, get in." Kylian sat silently as Zidane started the engine, with only one thought in his head. "I'm just Kylian from Bondy. This can't be real. I must still be asleep on the plane." That was who Kylian was, and perhaps who he still is to this day. Zidane drove him to the pitch and personally gave him a tour of the facilities. Kylian watched a first-team session and met Cristiano Ronaldo, the man whose pictures covered every wall of his bedroom. Someone held up a camera, and Kylian stood beside his idol, smiling like a child on Christmas morning. Real Madrid wanted him. They opened every door and offered everything. But when the family flew back to Bondy, Wilfried and Feza said no. They were worried. At age 13, Kylian could easily get lost among a club filled with extraordinary talents. His mother wanted him to grow up like a normal child. His father wanted to protect him. So Real Madrid had to wait. And here is the cruel part. Neither Kylian nor Real Madrid knew they would have to wait another 12 years. 12 years for the man who would become the fastest player on the planet. Before reaching that dream, his journey had many stops. The first stop was Monaco. At age 13, Kylian left home for the first time, joining AS Monaco, one of France's best youth academies. He moved through the youth ranks faster than anyone imagined. In his first 5 matches for the under-19 team, he scored 10 goals, averaging 2 goals per game. He was promoted to the reserves and almost immediately to the first team. On December 2, 2015, Monaco was playing at home. In the 88th minute, the manager looked toward the bench. A skinny teenager took off his warm-up jacket, wearing shirt number 33. Mbappé was just 16 years and 347 days old, becoming the youngest player ever to feature for AS Monaco's first team in history. The previous record belonged to Thierry Henry, one of the greatest strikers France ever produced. Yet Mbappé didn't throw extravagant celebrations. He didn't buy a supercar. He didn't move into a mansion. Monaco gave him a small room in the training center, a room just like any other academy player. Later, Mbappé said something fans would quote forever. "The word footballer doesn't rhyme with Ferrari. I don't have a car, and that's no big deal." At age 16, keeping such a clear head is something very few can do. Then Monaco unleashed him. In the 2016 to 2017 season, he scored against Manchester City, he scored against Borussia Dortmund, and he scored 15 goals in the league. Monaco won the French championship for the first time in 17 years and reached the semi-finals of the Champions League. All of Europe fixed its eyes on the boy from Bondy. In August 2017, Paris Saint-Germain orchestrated a moment that changed football history. They spent €180 million to sign Kylian Mbappé. He was only 18 years old, the most expensive teenage transfer the football world had ever seen. Yet he still didn't own a car, nor did he care to. By now, the world knew the name Mbappé. But to become a legend, he needed a stage bigger than all others. The following summer, that stage arrived. The World Cup, where a 19-year-old would stun the planet, and where, for the first time in his life, he would face Lionel Messi. In the summer of 2018, the World Cup came to Russia. Mbappé, at 19, was the youngest star in the French squad. France's first major test came in the round of 16 against Argentina, Lionel Messi's Argentina. The match took place on June 30th, 2018, and became one of the greatest games in World Cup history. 7 goals, suffocating drama, and in the middle of it all was a 19-year-old boy who just kept running. Mbappé's first moment came in the 13th minute. He picked up the ball deep in his own half and sprinted 60 meters. An Argentine defender tried to grab him, another tried to block him, but it was useless. The only way to stop him was to foul him, dragging him down in the box. Penalty. France opened the scoring. In the second half, Argentina surged ahead 2-1. A French defender equalized to make it 2-2. Then Mbappé took center stage. In the 64th minute, he drove a low shot through the goalkeeper's legs. 3-2. 4 minutes later, he broke free again, blasting the ball into the top corner beyond the keeper's reach. 4-2. Argentina pulled one back late, but it was too late. France won 4-3. Argentina and Messi were eliminated. With that brace, Mbappé joined a very exclusive club, a teenager scoring 2 goals in a World Cup knockout match. Before him, only one person had ever done that: Pelé, in 1958. When journalists asked him about matching Pelé's milestone, he replied calmly, "It's an honor to be mentioned alongside Pelé, but let's keep things in perspective. Pelé is in a completely different category." At age 19, standing at the summit of world football, while remaining so humble, was no small feat. France went on to beat Uruguay and then Belgium. On July 15, 2018, in Moscow, they stepped onto the pitch for the final against Croatia. By the 65th minute, France led 3-1, but Croatia refused to surrender, attacking relentlessly. One more goal could shift the momentum. Then the ball rolled to Mbappé, about 20 meters from goal. No backlift, no hesitation. His right foot swept across the ball almost effortlessly. The low strike skipped across the wet turf, slipping past the keeper's reach and tucking into the corner. 4-1. The final was sealed. France became world champions with a 4-2 victory. At that moment, Kylian was still only 19 years old. A world champion. Not since Pelé in 1958, over 60 years, had a teenager scored in a World Cup final. No one that young had done it until Mbappé arrived. The next day, Pelé sent him a simple message: "Welcome to the club." Then, Mbappé did something that stunned the sports world. Every French player received appearance fees and championship bonuses totaling roughly $500,000. Mbappé gave every single penny away. He donated the entire amount to a French charity called Premiers de Cordée, an organization that helps children with disabilities and illnesses play sports. When journalists asked him why, his answer was simple: "I don't need to be paid to represent my country. I'm there to defend the colors of my nation." Think about that for a moment. A 19-year-old from Bondy, a world champion, a global megastar, giving away $500,000 so that children who couldn't run could still touch a football. That full circle was more beautiful than any goal. To truly understand what makes Mbappé special, you have to understand his speed. His feet are fast, but his mind is even faster. In 2019, playing for Paris Saint-Germain against his former club Monaco, Mbappé received the ball near the halfway line. He blew past two defenders, entered the box, and scored. The tracking device on his jersey recorded his peak speed during that sprint at 38 kilometers per hour. A defender tried to chase him, but the gap between them didn't shrink. It widened. A full-grown man, running at full speed, looked smaller and smaller in the frame. To put that in perspective, the fastest man alive, Usain Bolt, reached a top speed of around 44 kilometers per hour. Mbappé was only 6 kilometers per hour slower than Bolt. But Bolt was a pure sprinter, while Mbappé did it while controlling a ball, dodging defenders, and deciding where to finish. At Paris Saint-Germain, that speed made him unstoppable. He became the all-time leading scorer in the club's history, with 256 goals, the fastest active player on earth. Yet even the fastest man alive could not outrun time. December 18, 2022. Lusail Stadium in Qatar. The World Cup Final. France versus Argentina. Mbappé against Lionel Messi. Two teammates at Paris Saint-Germain. Two of the best players on earth, and only one trophy. The first half was a nightmare for France. Argentina scored a penalty and added a brilliant counter-attack goal, 2-0 at halftime. For 70 minutes, Mbappé barely touched the ball, just 20 touches, and only once inside the opponent's box. Argentina prepared to celebrate. Commentators drafted stories of Messi's dream, Messi's coronation, Messi's World Cup. Then, in the 80th minute, everything changed. France won a penalty. Mbappé stepped up. The world held its breath. Ice cold and calm, he sent the keeper the wrong way. 2-1. Just 97 seconds later, Mbappé did the impossible. A floated pass reached him. He controlled it with one touch and unleashed a right-footed volley as his body fell backward, a volley from an almost impossible angle. The ball flew into the far corner, past the keeper's reach. 2-2. In 97 seconds, the stadium erupted. France rose from the dead. Argentina looked shattered, and for the first time all tournament, Messi looked visibly shaken. The match went to extra time, and Messi scored again. 3-2 for Argentina. They were seconds away from the world title, but Mbappé refused to yield. In the 118th minute, France won another penalty. Mbappé stepped up again. Same run-up, same cold focus. He deceived the keeper once more. 3-3. A hat-trick in a World Cup final. For 56 years, no one had accomplished that feat, not since Geoff Hurst for England in 1966. The match went to a penalty shootout. Mbappé converted his, Argentina converted theirs. When the final Argentine penalty crossed the line, the trophy belonged to Messi. France had lost. Yet the defining image of that night was not Messi lifting the golden trophy, but Kylian sitting alone on the bench, his shirt pulled over his face. He had scored 3 goals in a World Cup final, done what no one else had accomplished in over half a century, won the Golden Boot with 8 goals, and performed heroically. Yet sitting on that bench in Qatar, he was simply a young man who had lost. Kylian learned something his speed could never teach him, that sometimes you can do everything right and still lose. It was perhaps the most painful lesson of his career. Here is the strangest part about Kylian Mbappé. He was the fastest player on the planet at 38 kilometers per hour, yet he had to wait 7 years to reach Real Madrid. 7 years for a man moving at that speed. In 2017, Real Madrid wanted him, but he chose Paris Saint-Germain. Real Madrid remained patient, making an offer of nearly €200 million in 2021, which PSG didn't even answer. By 2022, Mbappé's contract was expiring. The world believed he was bound for Madrid, and Mbappé thought so too. Headlines were written, announcements prepared. Then, at the last minute, Mbappé changed his mind, renewing his contract with PSG. That decision shocked the football world and infuriated Real Madrid. The club president felt betrayed, and voices within the club said, "Enough. Move on. Forget him." The fastest man in football couldn't outrun his own timeline. Then, on a summer morning in 2024, the wait finally ended. Mbappé's contract with PSG expired. This time, there was no last-minute turnaround. Real Madrid announced the news that had hung in the air for 12 years. Kylian Mbappé was a Real Madrid player. He wrote to the world, "A dream come true. I am so happy and proud to join my dream club. No one can understand how excited I am right now." He returned to the same training ground, not as a visitor, but as a Real Madrid player, wearing the white shirt he dreamed of as a boy. The kid whose bedroom walls were covered in posters of Ronaldo would now wear the very same number Ronaldo wore in his first season at Real Madrid, number 9. 7 years of waiting, 12 years since Zidane first opened the car door for him. The wait paid off in his very first season. 43 goals across all competitions, top scorer in Spain and top scorer in Europe. In 2025, he equaled a calendar year goal-scoring record set by Cristiano Ronaldo himself. The boy who pasted his idol's photos on his wall was now standing beside his idol. The story of Mbappé continues. On the pitches of America, the boy from Bondy is writing the latest chapters of his life. On June 30th, 2026, France faced Sweden in the knockout stages outside New York City. In the scorching heat, France was flying, with Mbappé now serving as captain. At the end of the first half, a short corner reached him near the baseline. A Swedish defender stood right in front of him. With a subtle step over, Mbappé left the defender leaning the wrong way and vanished past him, striking a cross shot into the far corner, 1-0. In the second half, he added another to complete his brace in a 3-0 victory. Yet the most memorable moment was not the goal itself. After opening the scoring, Mbappé didn't run toward the fans. He ran straight to his manager, Didier Deschamps. Just days earlier, Deschamps had flown back to Europe after his mother passed away, missing a match to attend her funeral. Mbappé ran over and embraced him tightly. After the match, Mbappé said simply, "He knows that as long as he has us, he will never be alone." Sometimes football is beautiful, not because of the goals, but because of moments like that. That afternoon, Mbappé broke a record that had stood for decades. He became the all-time leading goalscorer in World Cup knockout history, surpassing everyone before him. By number of goals, Kylian Mbappé stands as the greatest goalscorer in French national team history. And at age 27, he is still running. Today in Bondy, on the wall of an apartment building, stands a massive mural. In that painting, a young boy lies in bed, holding a football and dreaming, while above him appears a vision of his future self wearing the number 10 jersey for France. Below it reads a line in French, "Love your dream, and your dream will love you back." 20 years ago, a little boy covered his walls with posters of his idol. Today, other young boys look up at walls covered with posters of him. That is how a dream passes from one generation to the next, right on the small streets where it all began. The fastest man in football could not sprint to his life's dream. He had to run while knowing how to wait. The grandest dreams require both. So run while you can and learn to wait when you must. Dreams are patient. They always find their way home. Have you ever had to wait a long time for a dream to come true, just like Kylian Mbappé? Tell me your story in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe to Timeless English Stories so you never miss our upcoming journeys. Thank you for spending this time with me today, and see you next time on Timeless English Stories, where every story carries a lesson for a lifetime. And when night falls, come back to Timeless English Stories.